Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Q&A with BA. Obviously, I'm your host, Brian Adamson, and we here. We here. It's been a day. All right, it's been a day, but we here. I'm gonna spare y'all with all the details, but for right now, this week I want to talk to you guys about three secrets to selling more. Three secrets to selling more. Okay, because two things. One, for all my business owners, aspiring business owners, all of y'all out there who are tuning in, listening, the first thing that you have to have in your business are leads, right? The first thing you got to have are leads. The second thing right behind that is you got to have sales. Without sales, there's no revenue. And so I've been thinking about, it's a lot of information out there. There's people all over the internet talking about a lot of things, particularly sales done in the wrong way. Okay, I'm just gonna be honest. The way I see sales done 90% of the time on the internet, it's done wrong. And so I wanna kind of clear the air and share some different perspective on how you guys can make more money in 2025 in your businesses. And if that sounds like a good idea to you, just type I'm in the chat. Type I'm in the chat. For those of you that are here, I want to make sure this chat is working. Type I'm in. All Nighter Hider, what's up? All Nighter Hider, true to your word, you are here hanging out. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And by the way, for anybody, what's up, old guy REI? My people. What's up, Alex? Yep. I love to see it. All right, cool. It's a party now. Okay. So let's start with this idea. Okay. Let's start with this idea first. See, thank you, Frank. I appreciate that. Let's start with this idea first. We understand that the importance of sales is so that we can make money, right? We understand that the importance of sales is to make money. But what if I told you that the way to sell more is to not focus on the money at all? Like the way to improve and convert more is to not focus on the money at all. I'm saying be totally detached from the outcome of the transaction. Be totally detached from the outcome of the transaction. So secret number one is stop trying to get them to buy. Stop trying to get them to buy. 100%. Writers, Frank says, yes, focus on providing value. I am a 100%. But it's hard, right? I mean, let's just call it what it is. Sometimes as business owners, we got payroll coming up. We got marketing expenses. We got our own livelihood that we got to take care of. And so it's easy to get on a sales call or in a sales environment and only think about the fact that you need this money to do XYZ. But the problem is that if you lead in with that energy, then the person sitting across from you or on the Zoom with you or what have you can smell the commission on your breath. They can sense that you are leaning in trying to get them to buy something from you. And here's the thing, the way that God set this whole world up, there's this thing called duality, right? There's heaven and hell. There's earth and water. There's no such thing as a one-sided piece of bread, right? There's no such thing as only one side of my hand. There's an opposing side. So that means that in every situation, there's an opposition. At every situation, there's duality. So what happens is when you start leaning in, they start leaning out. Because as you're leaning in, think about it. When you were in grade school, and maybe you had a crush on the girl, but as soon as you start pressing her, right? As soon as you start pressing her, what happened? She's like, "Oh, get away from me," right? She's like, "Get away from me! You weirding me out." But then when you play quote unquote hard to get, what happens? Then she chases you, provided that you are him, right? So same is true in a sales environment. So when you all of a sudden trying to shove this product or service down your potential client or your buyer's throat, it weirds them out. And then all of a sudden, their natural reaction in response to that is that they clam up, right? They get guarded. So what do you need to do instead? It's what Frank touched on a little while ago. Focus on providing value. So I give you an example. as I mentioned on the first live that I did last week, which by the way, we're showing up every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, the entire year for you, right? I will have a topic of some sort that I think could be a tactic, a strategy that could improve your business, your quality of life. And then ultimately, I want y'all to drive the conversation. So don't be shy about putting the putting questions in the comments. Like, that's the whole intent, is for me to be here as a resource to answer all your questions at the best of my abilities to hopefully make your life better. Okay. So last week, I was telling you guys that after 7 years of coaching in real estate, I've been investing in real estate, a couple decades, did just about everything in the space, right? Bunch of fix and flip wholesale deals, hundreds of those, own over 100 commercial multifamily units to date. So did a lot in that space. But now in the last year or so, I've been helping coaches, consultants, freelancers grow their personal brands online. And I just feel a more of a calling to that in the season, right? So I'm transitioning after 7 years. But with that, like, this is the last year that we're going to be offering our real estate mastermind. And so we're taking new clients up until February. At the end of February is over, right? So I was talking with a guy the other day, and he's somebody that's been following along for years, and he's been wanting to get started in real estate. And so we talked the other day, and as we're talking, for every positive thing that he had to say about wanting to get started in real estate, he had something negative. It was like, well, I got this 4-unit that I want to buy, but then I don't know. I mean, I'm only going to make like $300 a door, and then, I really don't want to get him, $385,000 for the property, yada, yada, yada. And I'm just listening to him, right? Because the best answer is a great question. So I'm just listening until I can ask the questions that I need to ask. And then he was like, and then I could kind of do that with an FHA, but I don't have a lot of money. So that's why I'm thinking of going to FHA route. And then maybe I could pull out equity later, not realizing, obviously, if you go to FHA route, there won't be equity in this property. It's going to be maxed out when you buy it, right? But I'm just letting them talk. And we get to a point where he was like, I really sense that I need some help, some mentorship, etc. But it's so expensive. And I was at this thing here in Kentucky the other day, and man, they wanted like $40,000. It was $1,500 for the thing, and then they wanted $40,000. So he telling me all of this, right? For every positive, there's a negative. For every solution, he creates a new problem. And I'm listening to this go on, and I'm exhausted, right? Just listening to him, because I know, regardless of the fact that I know that what we offer can help him immensely. One, all money, not good money. And I don't care how much you pay me. I'm not allowing anybody to pay me to be my headache. I'm just telling you, right? I will help anyone that's ready, willing, and able to be helped with the right mindset. But I'm not signing up to babysit, right? I'm just not doing that. So I'm listening to him. And he was waiting for me to essentially say why what I do was different than that. And he was hoping that it'd be a cheaper number. And I know what he's inferring and implying by all this stuff that he's sharing that I didn't ask him, right? So what do? I tell him, I said, listen, for every problem that I heard you state, you found a solution for it. And for every solution that I heard you state, you found a new problem. I said, so here's the deal. I don't believe you're ready to work with us. So I'm just being honest. Right? At least not right now. I don't believe I didn't even tell him what we offer, how we offer, because none of that's important. The important part that I wanted him to wrap his head around was he wasn't coachable yet. For everything that he was telling me and explaining to me, let me know that his mindset wasn't right yet. Right? And this is why I talked last week about how we have to become the person to do the thing to have the stuff. But many people want to skip the step of becoming and go straight to doing and having. But somebody like him, who didn't have the right mindset because he hadn't become the person, was not going to do the things to have the stuff. I'm abundantly clear about this. I've helped hundreds of people over the years in this space called real estate investing. But I've also helped hundreds of people in a space called life, right? And so all of this is synonymous. So I told him, I said, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I said, I know you need help. right? I said, just the fact that part of what you want to accomplish is to get 25 doors in a year, but your strategy of buying your first property with an FHA loan clearly tells me you're never going to get there like that. As a matter of fact, you probably be 15, 20 years in before you get to that point. Okay. So I could kind of see him sit back in his chair. He was like flabbergasted. I said, you got to understand something. I bought 120 units in 3 years, right? I bought 120 units in 36 months. Well, how did I do that? Because I had partners. I went out and raised capital. And that's the only way you're going to be able to scale in that short amount of time. So now I got his attention. He's starting to open up a little bit. And I told him, I said, the truth is, before you spend any money with anybody on your personal development, you have to first come to peace and come to terms with the fact that the penalty of not investing in yourself far outweighs the mistake that you're about to go make by doing it on your own. Like, you first got to come to peace and to terms with that, right? And by the way, just so y'all know, this is sales training, right? For those of y'all that's tuning in. Why? Why is it sales training? Because I'm not trying to sell them nothing. Because here's the thing. The reason why you see a lot of the time where people are disgruntled, they got buyer's remorse, and then they start, trolling people on the internet, is because people sold them things prematurely of them ever being ready for the thing that they bought. I'm not interested in doing that, right? I already know that our product is phenomenal, but in the wrong hands, just like you put the right tool in the wrong carpenter hand, you're going to end up with something that's no bueno, right? Same is true. So we're talking a little bit more. And I said, just think about it for a second. You're about to go out here after waiting 3 years of buying a property and potentially make the wrong purchase to the tune of being on the hook for $300,000, $400,000 mortgage. In what world does that make logical sense if you can pay and invest in what I call insurance, right? Having mentorship is having insurance for your business that could help insulate you from going out and making that type of mistake when you know that you're going to make that type of investment. That's just good stewardship. And so I could start to see his shoulders kind of settle a little bit. So then he said, honestly, that makes sense, man. I got to stop being cheap. I said, you said it, not me. But I had to take my time to allow him to come to that level of recollection and awareness, right? But once he did, then he says, so how can you help me? And I said, well, before I tell you that, I need to understand something. One, do you have 10 to 12 hours a week to commit to this process? Oh, absolutely. When I was working on, starting my vending machine business and yada, 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 I said, okay, cool. I said, secondly, I can tell you're very strong-minded in the things that you believe. And that's a phenomenal attribute to have. But I also need to know that you're equally persistent in being coachable and allowing because I'm telling you, it don't matter. I can show you exactly what to do, but if you don't do it exactly the way that I'm showing you, because you think you know better, because you've been absorbing all of this random information from all these random sources for the last 3 years, and you go out there and you try to iterate from day one instead of running the play as designed that has had repeatable success helping our students build 6 and 7 figure businesses, then it's not going to work. So my question to you is, are you willing to submit to the process? Absolutely. How important is it to you that this happens in your life? Right? And he rattled all of that off. Y'all get the point. We probably 47 minutes into this conversation at this point, right? Why? Because I wasn't hanging on for a sale. I was genuinely concerned for this guy who was in his late 40s, early 50s, that was about to make a mistake that was going to set him back a decade if somebody didn't take the time to talk to him, right? Unbeknownst to me, by just me going through the process of helping him, that it put me in position to actually help him. So, as you guys probably can assume, at the end of that conversation, he decided to move forward with us. And so he'll be starting the program later this month. But secret number one is stop trying to get them to buy. Just put some flames in the chat if y'all picking up what I'm putting down so far. Put some flames in the chat if y'all picking up what I'm putting down so far. Okay. Okay. Cool. Now, selling secret number two. Secret number two. Only sell them the thing that they desire. Only sell them the thing that they desire. So another problem that we have is because as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, at times there may be such a great need for money that you're willing to sell somebody something just because they have the ability to purchase it, but not because it's the best thing for them to purchase. So what do you need? Depending on the type of business you have, right? So we help coaches and consultants grow and scale their businesses. So one of the things that we have them do is set up like a profile sheet, right? To ask very specific questions to understand the profile of the person that they're talking to. And that's extremely important, right? Because depending on what their goals are, depending on what their life situation is, depending on where their credit is, their social economic level, their job situation, like depending on a myriad of factors that you have them fill out on this profile, will tell you based on what you offer, what is the best thing for you to offer them to help their situation, right? So there's been times where I've had somebody come to me and say, so y'all know, like over the last, so for 6, 7 years ago, wholesaling was like the buzzword on social media, right? Everybody wanted to wholesale. Then after wholesaling, development became the new sexy thing, right? So during COVID, especially, a lot of the developers who were in the background started coming to the front. And so everybody got hyped up. Everybody loved this idea of buying land and moving dirt and building everything from scratch, not understanding all of what comes on with that, the long burn rate on money before you ever make any, the high risk volatility of developing something that was never there before. And by the way, you can hit some home runs, but you can also strike out a whole lot, and people strike out far more than they hit home runs in that space. So, but during this time, we were getting a lot of calls, and people would come in and say, yeah, I want to build a subdivision. And I'm like, that's amazing, right? Super ambitious. I love it. I'm just not your guy. Well, what do you mean? I said, well, I've built new homes before, but not to scale. And the ones I built were for personal use. And so while we help people in fix and flip wholesale cash flow, we teach you how to invest remotely, set up your infrastructure, like all of the stuff, right? To go out and be successful in this thing called investing. I just don't invest that way. And I don't want to mislead you to make you think that I'm somebody that I'm not, right? And I'm perfectly fine with who I am. And there's somebody down the street that will be amazing at helping you with that problem you got. That was the face I got. So, right? So now they kind of like, wait a minute, okay? They so taken aback at the fact that I was just brutally honest with them because they knew what they were getting on the call for, right? And they were like, they started talking themselves into why they needed to do something with me. I'm not, listen to me. If you show up and you just serve people and stop trying to control the narrative, stop trying to manipulate the situation and let it be what it's supposed to be. See, what you got to understand is, well, let me ask y'all something. Why do you think that personal brands are so important? Why do you think personal brands is? I'm talking about, you look at the largest companies out there, right? And the Coca-Colas, the Apples now, the Teslas, like they don't necessarily need a personal brand behind them. Although Steve Jobs was one, although Elon Musk was one. Like, why do y'all think personal brands are so important? Alex said, people so fake that they shock when somebody is real. That's true. That's true. But your personal brand, the reason why it's so important, the reason why you shouldn't have your business name on your social media, the reason why your social media handle should be your name, right? Somewhere in the handle should be your name, is because people do business with people. People do business with people in the umbrella of business, right? So when somebody is investing their money with you, they're doing it because they believe in you and what you said about the product or service or the result that you can get them. They don't care what name comes out on the contract thereafter, right? Whatever LLC, that's immaterial. So when I say that, I mean this. Your personal brand in business is everything. The way you present yourself, the way you articulate what you do, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you function in business, the way that you leave an impression on people, all of that is important. And that's your personal brand, right? So I say that because when I was on that call with this particular individual, and this has happened a handful of times, right? Almost similar story, almost same story, I mean, where they were so enamored with the personal brand that they were just trying to figure out, okay, well then what can I do with you, right? Now, even in the vein of me understanding that that's what their energy is, I still got to be responsible to make sure that I'm getting them the right thing, right? Which is why you always hear me say that the best answer is a good, I mean, the best question is a good answer. Because I'm sorry, the best answer is a good question. Because through asking the right questions, you will be able to determine how you best serve this person in front of you, regardless of whether they construct the check or not. Okay. And so as we talk more about it, I just had to use deductive reasoning. Okay, well, you want to build a 100-home subdivision, right? So how many properties have you completed before, right? Whether it be new build or uh, uh, renovation? None. None. Okay. So what make you want to go do 100 of them from scratch? Oh, well, I took this development class and these other people and I'm seeing what they're doing and yada yada. Oh, okay, got it. Okay. So and again, right? Just me trying to think this thing through with you, right? Because I'm all about I never want to discourage or deter anyone from their dream, right? And if that's what you did set on, I highly recommend you pursue that and you pursue it with everything you got. But my question is, outside of the classroom setting, how much do you understand, practically speaking, about what all it entails to even renovate a property, right? To prepare it for the market? I mean, very little. Okay. So do you think before you go and step into an arena where you're going to put tens of millions of dollars potentially at risk to develop something from scratch, that it may behoove you to have a little more working knowledge about how the process goes with one? Well, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. Okay, cool, because that's how I see it too. So now, right now, we're talking about doing something that we do or have done as a company day in and day out, which is help people fix and flip, wholesale, and buy cash flow properties remotely to scale, right? While leverage other people money, all the rest of it. So you see how when I say only sell them the thing that they desire, I'm not trying to manipulate them into what I want to sell them. I'm just trying to ask the right questions to understand what is their true need and if I have a true solution that can fulfill that need. Just let me know if that makes sense in the chat. Let me know if that makes sense. Okay. Okay. Very good. And by the way, what I'm teaching y'all right now, just so you know, will make you money in any arena that you go into. Any arena. This is sales psychology. This works in any arena that you go into. Okay. Now, by the way, there will be many out there with their Lambos and Ferraris and they Louis this and Gucci that will argue me all day long on this approach, and that's okay. But here's what I know. Although to their point, they probably do make more money doing it the way they're doing it, and they probably do it at a much faster and higher interval at the way that they do it. But I also know that a lot of them don't sleep well at night. A lot of them got codependency on substances, on consumerism, on all these things that they think identify and establish who they are and their identity, because it's not fulfilling the way that they're doing it. The way that I'm telling y'all to do it will not only leave you with your pockets more full, but it's also going to leave you feeling more fulfilled. Okay. So number one selling secret was stop trying to get them to buy. Number two was only sell them the thing that they desire. And number three is don't try to convince them why they should be with you. don't try to convince them on why they should be with you. So first of all, have anybody ever been in a relationship, right? Grade school, high school, whatever, maybe even after that for some, where you trying to convince he or she why they should stay with you? When you're trying to convince he or she why they should be with you. I know some of y'all like, why'd you have to go there? I mean, I'm just saying, like, we all been there at some point in life, and we all know the end result of that never works out. It don't work. That's right, Alex. It never works out. So that's a clue. That's a clue that in a sales environment, if you're trying to look, when somebody comes to me and they say, I saw your ad, I saw whatever. Man, looks good. I had talked to 3 other people over the last few days, and so does this and the other one does that, so I wanted to check you out and see what you do. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So tell me, so what makes you different? I'm like, I couldn't tell you because I don't know what they do, but what I can tell you is if you like what they do, you should do it with them. Just so y'all know, as I'm teaching you these things, I really believe this stuff. Like, this is not me. This is not some like 3-card Molly thing. Like, I genuinely feel this way, right? It's no way that I'm about to sit here and talk to somebody about why they should do something with me. If you got interest already over there, then go do that thing over there. Period. And too many salespeople, too many business owners, too many entrepreneurs let people handcuff them in their businesses and have them chasing folks that are ghosts. That same individual that went and talked to 3 other people and then stopped by you for you to convince them as to why they should do something with you, and you actually take the liberty to try to do so, and then you set a follow-up, and then you following up via email, you following up via phone call, and they're in the win. You know why? Because they just went and did that with 3 more people. And the real thing that you have to understand is you only make an offer to somebody ready to buy. Well, B, what does that mean? Well, just because you ended up on a sales call or in a sales appointment with me don't mean that I need to offer you something. If I get any indication, as I did with the first gentleman I told y'all about, that you aren't ready to buy whatever it is that I provide, then why would I position the thing to even put it in front of you to sell? For you to then get off the call or get out of the meeting and have your insecurities bothered and have you feeling down as if, man, I presented somebody an opportunity and I got rejected. No, you presented an opportunity to somebody I was never going to buy. So while yes, you may not make money today, but you don't have to lose your self-worth and feel insecure in the process. Like why do that to yourself? 100%, Alex, it's a waste of time. So somebody who's trying to get you to convince them as to why they should do something with you is not your client. And I'm telling y'all, if you can get abundantly comfortable with this mindset of stop trying to get them to buy, of only sell them the thing that they desire, and never try to convince somebody to buy with you, if you can do those 3 things, I promise you, you're going to close way more people. Why? Because people are going to understand as they sit across from you that you don't need anything from them. And when I say that, I really mean that. Matthew 6:33 tells me, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added. So all I got to do is seek to serve, and God said I get increase. So then I legitimately don't need nothing from the people I'm sitting across from, which takes a tremendous amount of pressure off of me. Because now I know as long as I serve them and serve them well, that even if the increase don't come from this transaction, it's all coming from God anyway. So that gives me a tremendous amount of peace going into any type of sales environment. I really don't need anything from anybody. Because at the end of the day, they didn't give me nothing. God gave me something through them, if that was the right avenue by which I was supposed to have it. If I wasn't, then I won't get it. And when you can get to that level of resolve, people will no longer control you. People can no longer manipulate you. That doesn't mean that you won't be tempted. That won't mean that you had times of weakness, but it certainly means that once you get to that level of clarity, that you're going to convert more. And when I say convert more, you're going to convert more of the right clients. You're going to work with more of the right people. And the reality is, the more that you're chasing the money, it's going to keep running from you anyway. So when you can be unshakable in the sense that everybody you talk to, you're only talking to them for the purposes of seeing if you can legitimately help them with whatever product or service that you offer. And if you can't legitimately help them based on what their desire and need is, then you don't. And be okay with the fact that that's for somebody else. Because there's going to come a point in time where somebody else going to sit across from somebody, and after deductive reason, they're going to figure out, you know what, you ain't the best person for me. But I know Frank. Let me send you to Frank. I know Alex. Let me send you to Alex. So scripture tells us that we reap what we sow. So for me, I always want to sow good things so I can reap good things. Because here's the thing. It ain't always been like this, right? This is training that came from learning. Okay. This is from a lot of trial, tribulation, pain of putting myself in the wrong situations by just doing with business with virtually anybody that had the ability to do business, right? And that approach in business will have you worn out, burnt out in business, and ready to shut down your business. Okay. So I'm trying to help y'all grow, but grow in a way that, again, is fulfilling and rewarding for you. All right. So again, the 3 secrets for those that just joined: 3 secrets to selling more. Stop trying to get them to buy. Only sell them the thing that they desire, and don't try to convince them to buy nothing from you. If it's between me and the other guy, take the other guy. Because if you wasn't convinced that I was the guy, it's no way I'm about to convince you that I'm the guy in the midst of trying to also give you an offer. Psychologically, you're not going to allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to believe I'm the guy. And while I'm trying to sell you something, so psychologically, you got to be pessimistic enough to be like, oh, he's just doing this because he's trying to, right? So why would I waste my time trying to do that in that moment? Right? The real question is, why haven't you chosen anyone? And why haven't, what was so bad about the other 3 people you talked to that you haven't gone with them yet? Or are you just really running around wasting everybody's time, and you want to feel important that you got a chance to have a meeting with somebody? Because that also is another situation, right? So anywho, was this helpful? Every week, I'm here for y'all, right? I'm talking about those things that you guys are putting in the comments, which are very helpful. By the way, please let us know of any things or topics that you want me to take a deep dive on, right? Let us know in the comments. The team is here, and they can pull out those comments. And then from week to week, right, either I could create a podcast or get on here live and discuss said topics. Okay. Alex said, know your worth, 100%. Sharonda said, I did a lot to be ready for them. I would release them from my mind. Yes. They weren't your client from the beginning. I did that, accommodated, and then they still haven't used my services. I'm telling you, it's Frank said, yes, very helpful. Thank you so much for doing these. I love it. I appreciate that, Frank. Yeah, it's a facade. You know, a lot of time as business owners, because nothing is guaranteed in what we do, right? We forecast, we plan, we prepare, we do all those great things. But unlike a traditional work environment where as long as you show up for your 40 hours, right, you can look forward to that direct deposit every Thursday night or whenever that comes, unless they tell you that you can leave, right? That happens. But as a business owner, you don't have that luxury, right? You have invoices that some are recurring. You have, you know, some people that, you know, if they, you close them and you give them the wire instructions, you hope that wire shows up. You know, don't get me wrong, I love business. That's why I'm in it, right? That's why I left corporate America, because I like the idea that I have a ceiling based on how much money that I can earn, right? Neither is there a linear pathway in terms of, when you go to work, their requirement is that you give them 40, 50 hours in order for whatever compensation y'all agreed to. In business, I mean, I can work 1 hour and make $10,000. I may work 1 hour, make $1,000, right? So I have a lot more latitude and leverage over my time that, depending on how I invest that specific amount of time, I make a lot more money, right? Like we we've had six-figure days in our company, multiple, okay, which is what we teach coaches, consultants, freelancers how to do the same, how to um, sell one to many, how to develop irresistible offers, like just amazing stuff, right? But oh, Sharonda said the three secrets again. Okay, so the three secrets to selling more. Number one is stop trying to get them to buy. Okay. Number two is only sell them the thing that they desire. And number three is don't try to convince them that they should do it with you. Okay. If anybody say I'm shopping around and all that, it's like, okay, well, cool. So, like, for what? What are you shopping around for? And why haven't you found it yet? It's a lot of tire kickers out there. Okay. And sometimes you can smell a no coming, right? Like you kind of know the people that's just egging you on and they just want to be nosy and see what you got to offer. And regardless of what come out of your mouth, they're going to say no. So in those cases, you just tell them that you don't think they're a good fit, never even tell them what it is. Any poker players on here? I'm not a poker player, but I know enough to know when you got a hand that's no bueno and somebody else already won, that you don't turn your cards over to show them what you had. You want to leave that obscure so that on the next hand they won't know based on your tails what you may have had in your hand, etc. Right? So same is true in business. Like, why would I show you my hand when there's no benefit to that? You're not buying nothing anyway. Right? Like you're not buying nothing anyway. So why would I show you my hand just for you to tell me, no, I'm okay? I'm gonna tell you, oh no, I'm okay. I really, what? Listen to the conversation. I don't think at this time you're probably a good fit for what we offer. But down the line, provided that we offer something different, maybe we could add you to our list and notify you when that time comes. Tell a prospect no and see how that change your life. You know what I'm saying? See how that'll change your life. To take your power back, to not feel like you're whoring yourself out, and that you actually value yourself, your product, your service, your integrity enough that you just don't have to provide it to everybody that you sit across from. Something very liberating about that, just so you know. It's a clear indication that you're not controlled by money or the perception thereof. Because a lot of the time, you have a perception that there's money at the end of that conversation or transaction. It's not reality. It's what you hope for because that's what you need and desire, but you're wasting more time chasing that prospect who's doing nothing but they're happy that they're getting some attention from you. And they're allowing you to waste your time on them when there's somebody that's over there in the corner like waving at you, but you're so distracted by chasing somebody who's never going to give you some money and you're totally missing out on the one who's begging to. That makes sense? That was good. That was good. What questions do you guys have, man? What y'all working on? What can I help with? Like, I'm here for you. Put your questions in the comments, in the chat. Sharonda said they weren't a client from the beginning. I did that and accommodated them, and they still, yep, I got that one already. Let's see up here. Got it. Okay, Frank said he had to run. It's discouraging and very tiring listening to people like it is. It is for sure. How can I help you get unstuck in any particular area of business? Oh, that's a good one, Craig. So managing fear. Can you tell me specific? Because I could give you a general response, but Craig, if you want to give me a little more context specifically in the area of your business of managing fear. So while Craig is getting that over to me, the first thing I want to say about fear is this: fear is oftentimes misdiagnose. Okay, I got you, Craig. Fear is oftentimes misdiagnosed. And what I mean by that is this, or should I better say, is misconstrued. So a lot of the time we think that we're fearful of something, right? But fear is only present in the face of a clear and present danger. So for instance, I live in Florida, right? I walk outside, I see a snake, I'm afraid. I'm telling y'all right now, I'm 41 and I ain't never touched a snake. I don't want to touch a snake. I wish they didn't exist, but they got their place from what I hear. But I'm not going nowhere near a snake. Well, I see a snake, I'm afraid. That's real fear, right? I feel it all in my, it's a legitimate concern. And the snake can bite me, more importantly, right? Like that's a legitimate fear of mine. And for those of y'all that got pet snakes, I pray for people like y'all. I don't understand that. Okay. I just don't. But what we misconstrue fear with is what we're really feeling is anxiety. What we really see, a lot of time we say we're fearful of a thing, but fear only exists in the face of a clear and present danger. Okay. Anxiety is thinking of an outcome that we don't desire. So somebody who is a writer, for instance, they say they got writer's block. They really don't have writer's block. They're thinking about the fact that if I write it this way, nobody's going to buy the book. So they're thinking of an outcome they don't desire, which is now giving them anxiety over writing, which is now called writer's block. Well, you're like, okay, that's fair. So how do I get around that? Well, how you get around that is then you have to start thinking of outcomes you do desire. Now, here's the thing that I want you to understand, because you're like, okay, well, that sounds easy enough, but I'm still kind of like apprehensive. Okay, but here's the thing. Whether you're thinking of a future outcome that you don't desire, or you're thinking of a future outcome you do desire, you made either scenario up. So then why beat yourself to death with the thought of a future outcome you don't desire when that's not real, when you could think of something that you do desire that at least would be more pleasant in the moment? Now, until you get to the future outcome, you don't know if you're right or wrong. But why be miserable along the way by anticipating a thing that you don't even want instead of anticipating a thing that you rather would have? Okay, so absolutely, Craig. So I wanted to first make that clear distinction between fear and anxiety, because we're really feeling anxiety, right? We're having an anxious thought. Worry is a misuse of imagination, right? God gave us this amazing gift of imagination through his creativity, and he put a seed of his creativity in us so that we can go and be creative. But then we use our imagination to worry, which is why scripture warns us against that. Don't worry about anything. Okay, 100%, Craig. What you focus on expands. So that's the first thing, is literally retraining your mind to think of the outcomes that you desire versus the ones that you don't. There's a lot of life psychology counseling as to why we naturally think the negative thing versus the positive, right? For many of us, we think that that's some type of protection mechanism, that we're safeguarding ourselves from something, but you're really not. You're just making yourself miserable until you actually realize whatever the outcome is. Okay. Which I'm going to do a video on that one day. But going back specifically to Craig's question, having anxiety over financial uncertainty. So one of the reasons why you find me online talking so much about biblical principles in business, right? 2 Corinthians 9:6, those who sow sparingly shall also reap sparingly. Those who sow generously shall also reap generously, right? That's a principle. Ecclesiastes, I think 11:4, sow your seed in the morning, get busy by afternoon, for you do not know from which activity you will profit from, if not both, right? So it's another principle behind, you don't go paint one room in the house and then sit there for 4 hours and watch the paint dry. Paint gonna dry anyway. So go get busy and accomplish some more things. And then at the end of the day, you can look and tally up, man, I benefited and I profited from many efforts, right? There's another Proverbs 14:23 that says, all hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads to poverty. Think about the brokest people out there. They are the ones that talk the most with no action behind it. So there's fundamentals in the Bible business principles that work, and they've been working for thousands of years, far before we got here and far beyond us leaving here. So why is that important? That's important because not only do I deem the Bible as true, but I deem it as truth, right? What's true can change. Today I have on a blue shirt. That's true. I could go change my shirt and have on a white shirt. That's true, right? What's up, Mark? But what's truth remains the same, as has the Bible and its principles and precepts for the last 2,000 plus years. So to help silence financial anxiety, financial uncertainty, then if you build your foundation on truth, then you have more certainty as to how it's going to turn out. Borrower becomes slave to the lender. Scripture tells us that. Right? So what happens? You go get in a bunch of debt. Guess what happened? You're a slave to the lender. So what does that tell us? We need to avoid debt, especially bad debt. But then we get all out of whack, and it's kind of like, well, dang, it sucks. And it's like, yeah, because it wasn't ever intended that way. I mean, the scripture told us way back then this was a bad idea. It even talks about co-signing for other people's debt in the Bible, in Proverbs, 2,000 years ago, talking about co-signing. But then we we co-sign for so, and Craig, I promise you I'm about to answer your question. I am in the process of doing so right now, actually. So what happens is we have to first build our model off of a success model. So whatever that is, Craig, that you're pursuing, whether that's real estate, there's a scripture in Luke 14:28 that says, before one of you starts to build, wouldn't you first sit down and count the costs? Because you wouldn't want to start to build and run out of money, and then those that see you and that you didn't finish your build will look at you and call you a fool. This is Luke 14:28. Go look it up, okay? Now, in that parable, Jesus is talking to the disciples about what it's going to cost them to follow him. Right? He's telling them, like, hey, I know y'all hype, y'all see my movement, y'all like, yeah, I want to get down with you. Like, let me just be clear. It's going to cost you something. And you need to sit down and count the cost of what it looks like to follow me, to truly follow me and be a disciple. But he also meant that in a literal sense, that before we start planning out any business endeavor, that we need to sit down and count the costs. We have to prepare for success. The only thing that we control in business are the inputs, and God controls the outputs. Right? So we have to prepare. The more prepared we are, the better off we are. There's also scripture that says many plans fail because of lack of counsel. But with plenty of advisors, they succeed. So what does that mean? Mentorship matters. That we got to go out and find people that are better than us in said area that we want to have success in. And we need to pay these people and sit at their feet and learn the systems, the processes, the infrastructure that they have already used that's been successful for them that can be replicatable for you. The days of doing it alone are over. I mean, unless you look, I got a new rule. I'm 41, right? I made millions of dollars. I lost hundreds of thousands, probably close to $1 million if I had to sit down and painfully calculate it all. What that has taught me is there's two different commodities that you're investing every day for just about everybody. Number one, everybody's investing their time every day. And for most of us, whether you go out the house or not, you're spending some money, right? I'm at a time and place in life where I'd rather give somebody my money for them to show me how to do something more effectively with my time, because anything that I sign up to do in business is inherently risky, and there's going to always be a learning curve that only happens when you get in the game, not while you're on the outside, like looking at the game, but once you're in the game, right? College player may be super dominant. He know everything he or she needs to know about the NBA until they get there and they're in the game. Do they realize how different the game is, right? So same is true with business. So my philosophy now at the age of 41 is I'd rather give you my money to save my time, to get to the outcome I desire sooner. By doing it alone, I run a higher risk and a more probable outcome of losing my time and my money, with potentially never reaching the outcome that I desired. So without knowing all the specificity of your situation, Craig, the first thing is, and if you're already existing business owner, I would just highly recommend getting in community with more people that are in that same industry, that are successful, or just in business in general that are successful, that you can glean from and with, right? Last night, my wife and I went to dinner with one of my friends, business partners. You know, when I met him 45 years ago, his um, his merchandising company was doing 20 million bucks, right? We met from speaking at a men's event on a panel about God and business. And then 4 or 5 years later, made money together, done life together, all the above. Actually, he's got a clothing line I got to go do some modeling for tomorrow morning. So I'm constantly putting myself in community around other winners. Why? Because I want to win. And even though we may not be in the same specificity of industry, there's certain things that he's learned growing a $20 million business that I can learn from him. There's other things that I've learned growing out my business to millions of dollars that he can learn from me. Why? Because certain principles are just principles. So you become more shoe-footed the more that you institute winning principles in your business, and it takes a lot of the speculation out of your business. Does that make sense, Craig? Let me know in the chat if that makes sense. Because here's the thing. The dictionary definition of an entrepreneur is a risk taker. We're never going to get away from that. Right? And it's so funny. The antithesis of control is faith. Now, we all want control, especially us business owners, right? Anybody else out there? Like, we want as much control as we absolutely can have. Why? That's why we left corporate America, because we didn't want to be in constructs. We wanted to have our own, and we wanted to have the agility to do however we wanted to do it. But the problem with that is, going back to biblical principles, the only thing pleasing to God is faith. So then how can we have control and faith? We can't. Control is the antithesis of faith. Faith is the antithesis, the opposite of control. So, it's one of those things where we have to prepare ourselves as well as we can prepare, but then we have to have enough faith in the fact that, God, I'm doing this thing in the way that you designed for it to work, and it's now in your hands. And so, in a very long-winded way, Craig, the reality is, for all of us, we all have some anxiety around the uncertainty. And my response to that is, God wouldn't have it any other way. The thing that we can do is to prepare ourselves. We can Luke 14:28 that thing and make sure we counted the costs and we understood what we were getting ourselves into. We weren't doing it haphazardly, and we put our absolute best foot forward, and then we got to let the chips fall where they may. But the reality is, you can't make any millions without a couple L's. Right? So it never goes away, but it lessens. And the more that you have success that you can refer to, the more confidence that it builds to then lessen the anxiety as you go and pursue whatever you're pursuing. Because you have a history of winning. You have a history of knowing, if I pull this lever, it's going to be successful. If I get 1,000 new leads in a month, I'm going to make 6 figures a month. Why? Because based on empirical data, I know that if I generate 1,000 leads per month, that if I just close, 5% of those, I have the ability to make 6 figures a month, right? And I'm just using that loosely speaking, but I am also specifically saying what we measure matters. the more that we measure every aspect of our business, then the more that we can manage expectations. And so we're never going to get away from being good stewards, good managers, even over the data. KPIs, key performance indicators, are important for that very reason, because they help you measure what matters. If I'm spending, you know, $3,000 a month on marketing, I really need to understand what my cost per lead is. I need to understand what my cost per click is. I need to understand what my click-through rate is. I need to understand all of these components, because all of them have a direct impact on whether or not I'm successful and how successful that I am in the pursuit. I need to know what my closing percentage is, right? Whether I'm doing sales or I got people on the phones, I need to understand, like, what's our closing percentage? Do we close 1 out of 10? Are we closing at 10%? Are we closing 3 out of 10? Are we closing at 30%? Because if I know that, then I know how much I need to spend on marketing, and I know how many closing calls that need to be set up and how many of those I need to close in order for me to hit the revenue target that I have. Then I got to go test my ads out and find out, when I say this and this ad in this way, it converts better than when I say this and this ad that way. I need to look at my copywriting and my landing pages and see where the hot spots are. And, you know, people typically fall off at this third section. Well, what's happening there? Did the color change? Did the tone of the conversation change? Like, what made them lose interest at this part? I need to understand the deliverability of my email marketing and how many people actually received it, how many people opened it, which header, which subject line was more effective than the other one. When we use caps here and we use lowercase there was a distinct difference. Like, why is that? Like, I got to understand all of this, because that allows me to not speculate so much. And the good news is all the data exists. The bad news is very seldom do we look at it. We're oftentimes looking at the big picture. But I once heard Dr. Darius Daniels say it this way. He said, if you'll do small things in a big way, you will eventually hit a season where you will do big things in a small way. If you're willing to do small things in a big way, eventually you will hit a season where you will do big things in a small way. And so I'm not a fan of majoring on minors. I'm not a fan at being obsessed with activity and missing out on productivity. But what I am saying is that we have to be detail oriented. And the more that we understand the details, and the more that we understand the on-off switches, and the more we understand what levers that we pull do what, we got a much higher chance of being successful in business. And if anybody's concerned about the state of the economy, understand this, that so as long as people are buying, selling things, we're in an economy. There's somebody making money, so why not you? And if you're not, then you need to figure out how to solve a bigger and better problem for other people, and you will always make money. I wouldn't care if they put houses in the space, houses in the sky, right? We hit the Jetson years. Somebody gonna live up there, and somebody need to sell it to them. Don't matter if the vehicle start flying. Somebody need to manufacture them. Somebody need to sell it. Right? People either need help fixing the pain problem, or they need help enhancing the pleasure problem. And if you can figure out how to position yourself to help them in either one of those situations, you're going to always do well in life. But we got to be flexible. We got to be well informed. And we got to go out and be executors. We got to execute on the things that we know. And you're never going to win on a spreadsheet. You're never going to have it all figured out before you do it. But as you do it, you will figure it out if you pay attention. And that, folks, is my time for this week. This was amazing. If you got on here late, go back and watch the 3 secrets to selling more, making more money. And let me know in the comments, what topics do you want to see me cover? I'm here every Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I may even do some live like coaching, right? So I think I could set something up on like StreamYard or Riverside, and we could do like a live coaching and stream it to YouTube, to the channel, right? So I think that's something that we'll do as this builds. But yeah, let me know in the comments how this was effective, how it was helpful, and what ways it could help you more. And I will see y'all in a week. Same time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Q&A with BA. God bless y'all. Have a great week, great weekend, all that good stuff. Until next time.